Another very important tool is the field tool. It's up here, you'll see it right here, and the first thing you want to notice is it's got this little down pointing arrow. That's because you don't click on this. If you click on it, nothing really happens. You can kind of see something appear there real quickly, but it's actually draggable, whereas these are all clickable tools. Well, with the exception of this tool over here, which we'll go over later, there's actually a little different kind of arrow that allows you to pop up a menu. But right here you need to drag these. So before we use this tool, we're going to go ahead and get rid of one of our fields because we have no additional fields to drag on there. So I'm going to click on the label. When the anchors are there, I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard, and then go to the field. When the anchors are there, click on it, and then hit delete. So now what we can do is we can drag this field exactly where we want it. And you notice that the object grid is still on, so that's going to make it easier to line up. If you don't have the object grid on, let's turn that off. I don't prefer to have that on. It moves more freely, doesn't obey that, and it's important to notice these little guidelines coming out from where the field will be dropped. If you line it up right with that little dotted line right there, you see it's perfectly lined up with that field right now, so you can use those to line things up. Right here you're just going to have to eyeball it, get it right where you think you want it, and I didn't quite get it there, but we'll use the arrow keys to move it up. I'm going to choose the field I want, but before we do that, realize that up here is where you want to look first. This tells you that you're on the current table contacts, but you could choose a related field. We don't have any related tables because we only have one table, but this is where you do that. You can see all the fields from anywhere and put a related field on here if you want. So we'll choose address 2 and decide whether we want a label or not. I'm going to choose to have one. Click OK, and it goes right on there. All we have to do is shift click on the label and use the arrow key, the up arrow key, to move it up one, and it's perfectly in there. Then all we have to do is click on this object. So I clicked over here first to deselect it, then click on the object I want, and I'm going to start dragging it, and also hold the shift key down so I make sure it doesn't resize any direction I don't want it. And there we go, we have it in there perfectly. So this tool over here is actually your field control. It's a little more complicated than your actual field tool over here, so we're going to go over it later. We're not going to use it, but it's another way to put a field on the layout. What we're going to do is show you different ways to actually put a field on layout other than using either of these tools up here. So I'm going to get rid of address 2 again. Just click on it once, hit delete, click again on the label, hit delete. And what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate. We're going to click on this object and actually use the duplicate feature. And it'll come up and ask you, because it's a field, you can duplicate any object, but because it's a field it asks you, well, do you want the same field or some other field? Well, we probably want some other field, so we'll click OK. And then we're going to go ahead and notice only the field selected right now. I'm going to shift click on the address, and now it's going to be 6 pixels to the right and 6 pixels down. So I'm going to use the arrow keys to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to get very familiar with this 6 pixels because it's very important to get things lined up. Now down you can go as much as you want with the arrow keys until you get it just where you want it. And there we go. We have address 2 right between address 1 and city. But I really have a much more preferred way to do this. Even though this is better than just dragging the field on because you notice we didn't have to go ahead and resize it, I still prefer another method because it required me to do a menu or a keyboard command, and I like the one-shot approach, which is what I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to delete both those objects. And now what I'm going to do is normally when you drag a field, it moves that field around. We'll undo that. What I'm going to do is hold down the Option key on the Macintosh or the Control key on Windows. And when I drag, it looks the same, but what's going to happen is when I let go, it's actually going to make a copy of it. And what I'm going to do is throw the Shift key in there so it's perfectly lined up, let go, choose address 2, and I just made a copy of it. It's more of a one-shot approach. You just drag that mouse. You don't have to do any other keyboard commands or go out to the menus or anything like that. So I prefer that. And again, it's just instead of dragging a field around, before you click and hold down on it, hold the Option key down or the Command key or the Control key on Windows. So Option Macintosh, Control Windows, and you can make a copy of this, and it copies everything about it. The size, it copies the settings on this font, whether it's bold or italics, everything is copied, so it's much easier than using the field tool. The field tool uses, when you drag a field on here, uses its own dimensions, and it also uses the default, which we're going to get into later, of all the settings. You know, it could have a different font than what you want. So all in all, either duplicating or Option or Control dragging a field either one of those methods is really the best way to get a new field on there because it makes less work for you.